push all these. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody. We are here live. Instead of the usual counter clipping stream, I have asked notable persons from the wargaming community of YouTube to come on to talk about
notable people.
You're right. The experience of being a wargame creator on YouTube. So we have joining us. We have Mo of Mo's Game Table. We have the legendary Stuka Joe. And hopefully we have Alexander from the Player's Aid, who will be joining us and treating us to a fashion show at any moment.
Probably out on safari right now, killing his latest.
Could be. We do not ask such questions.
Maybe it's Ardwulf tonight. I don't know. Shouldn't have done that when you were reaching for your drink.
Does he? I mean, we could spend the entire 2 hours just making fun of Alexander's outfit. But
that's true.
Regardless of what it might happen to be.
You know, the funniest thing that for me, when he talks in an American accent, I just crack up.
That's always funny to hear.
He did it once. I just played that thing all over again.
Talking like uncivilized Americans. I assume they're all trained to speak like Americans.
Damn colonials.
At some point.
I will warn everybody, though, that I did not have beans for dinner. So if you hear rumbling, it's not me. There is a line of thunderstorms that'll be coming through the area soon. So it may come through the mic. Just wanted to warn everybody.
So I will also mention that the video tonight is not monetized. So if anybody feels like they need to express themselves in a profane way, it is okay to do that tonight only. Normally we have a family-friendly show.
Sure. So
let's start with you, Mo. Tell us about Mo's Game Table.
Well, I'd been doing written stuff for a long time, and I was doing a lot of Euro games and stuff like that, hobby games, believe it or not, for years, and kept wargaming to myself. I wasn't really sharing much on that publicly. I was just playing them and enjoying them, and I just kind of got tired of doing that. And I says, you know, I'm really just wanting to just stick to war games. So I just went that route and just put all the concentration into war games. Was doing written stuff on my blog, and then I finally got tired of having a blog, so I got rid of that and just completely switched to video. And the thing now with video is, like we were talking about before, is I run into difficulties when I can shoot videos, so I kind of have to squeeze in what I can when I can. And I'm still kind of working through formats on what I want to do with reviews and things like that. But what I wanted to do at first was I just kind of tested the waters with an unboxing. And unboxings are very popular, even though people complain about them, they're very popular. And I just decided, you know, instead of just doing unboxings like I've seen a lot of people do, where like, hey, here's some counters, here's a map, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to turn it into a preview. So what I do is I learn about the game, get the game in, and because usually the games have the rule books out there ahead of time. And I'll go ahead and, yeah, already did shave for the occasion.
I'll tell you when there's a story. I'll tell you when Mo's done.
So I learn about the game, and then when I get the game in, I break the game down in a preview format instead of just saying, yeah, here's some counters, here's cards, blah, blah, blah. I talk about the game a little bit and how it's all going to work, because you can get an idea of that just from reading the rule book. And I figured this way it helps people get, you know, make a better, more informed decision as far as whether the game is going to be for them or not. And that's the review afterwards, is where you give your opinion, and everyone's got an opinion, and not everyone's going to agree with everyone else on their opinions. So do that. And then we also do Whiskey Charlie, and try to just bring shed a light onto different people that are in the content creator community, as well as designers, publishers, things like that, because there's a lot of great voices out there and not everybody knows all of them. So it's a good thing to shine a light on them and help everybody succeed, because right now wargaming is really going through a big boom, I think, and a lot of new voices are coming in. So let's shine a light on them and bring them up and help everybody succeed.
So thanks. So you should. So I actually. You should see my college graduation pictures. I look like a terrorist. So I went and got a haircut. I'm like several months past due on a haircut because nobody cares right now, right? So I get a haircut yesterday, and I get home, look at the mirror. I'm like, oh my God, I look like Abe Lincoln. It's got to go. I'm not even kidding. I look like Abe Lincoln. It was like, yeah, we can't. This can't happen. I cannot go live on the internet looking like Honest Abe. That will not work. So, Joe, tell us about yourself and why you started making wargaming videos on YouTube in the first place.
Well, I've been in wargaming since I was 13 years old, and on and off. You go to college, you work, and in 2013, I started watching. I noticed people were doing wargaming videos. It was Marco, you had Enrico Biglino Callendale, also Joe Stedman. And I said, well, let's give it a crack. And I took a game called Lion of Ethiopia, published in Command Magazine. And I had a Sony camcorder with this big tripod. And I wanted to make it like multi-clip video to give the impression that you had a lot of cameras, but it was just one camera. I thought it was more interesting that way. So my younger son, taught me Sony Vegas, which is an editing program that we had at the time. So it took me like 3 weeks to put together. I put it together, and people seemed to like it. So I said, "Hey, this is kind of fun." And from that, I evolved to the iPhone, filming with the iPhone, and other softwares, and doing many kinds of videos that, try to do videos that people would be interested in watching. And the editing, of course, makes a huge difference. So I enjoy doing playthroughs are the ones that I enjoy the most. And I do my unboxings too when I have no idea. So an unboxing's cool.
I do unboxings because I have no ideas. Right?
So that spawned other things, other interests, like the CDG solo system. And now I'm doing sequence of play cards for games that have like multiple phases and that you can't commit to memory. It's a deck of cards you flip and you go through the phases, and you don't miss any of the steps, and people seem to appreciate and like those too. So
play aids that even the designer didn't think of, featuring Stuka Joe. That is a really great idea. I had never even thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great idea, enormously helpful for certain games. And if you look at say the flip books for D-Day, the D-Day series from Decision Games, that's basically what they are.
Yeah. I did for RAF, I did for the Eagle version and the Lion version, and people and the great thing about the community is that people get back to you and say, "Hey, you can improve this. There's a mistake here," and you oh, here's Alexander.
It's great when the criticism is construction. Alexander, thank you for joining us. I take it that the children have been chloroformed for the evening.
Yes, they have.
Okay, awesome.
Question: is that popcorn, clouds, or flowers on your shirt?
It can be whatever you want it to be, Mo. It can be whatever you want it to be.
I was rather hoping for something more flamboyant, to be completely honest. But we can get.
He's like, hold on, let me get my wardrobe right behind me.
I don't want to say I've got a delivery coming in the mail with more shirts in, but I do.
Are those available at your merch store by any chance? Because if not, you may be missing an opportunity for monetization.
Just like all the old ladies in the country will be buying shirts from it.
All right, so I am very glad that Alexander is taking this in good humor. Alexander, tell us why you or Grant started making YouTube videos in the first place, or the blog, because you guys run the blog as well.
Yeah, so we did a written blog for about a year and a half before we ever conceived of making a video. And I don't know if anyone's seen our first ever YouTube video, but I would highly recommend you go and watch it, because it is a total train wreck. It's an unboxing video of Cuba Libre, it was maybe one of the first few war games we played, and Grant is just like holding his iPhone, and it's just in my kitchen in a tiny old house we used to live in. My 6-month-old is in his high chair at the table that I'm unboxing it. You can just see him. Oh, hi, there's Ollie. Like, my other kid is screaming in the background. It is just a total disaster. Had no idea what I was doing. And I can't really remember what prompted us to do it, other than, I don't know, we'd been doing the blog for a while and people liked it. So it was like, let's just make a video. Who cares? It's literally like 3 minutes long, and it is just a nightmare to watch.
I have a video somewhere that was only salvaged by an astonishing feat of editing in post-production, that where I was just, I mean, it was a bad day. I like dropped the game and the pieces went everywhere, and I like held the box up to the camera upside down. Everything you could possibly think of would go wrong in an unboxing video went wrong. I think I got the name of the designer wrong at some point. It was bad. It needed to be hugely fixed.
If it makes you feel any better, we still do that. I have a video that we've got lined up, and I know for a fact in one segment I have to basically cut out a whole bit because we talked about something that was very wrong. Like we went off on a tangent, and it was like, no, this thing didn't happen. So we were like, what are we doing? It still happens.
There's that valuable stage in the editing process called, am I full of shit here?
Oh, yeah.
And that's where we discover those things. I think I probably had that happen as well, to be honest, where I said something and maybe I didn't realize how I said it at the time. And then I'm looking at it in editing. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to fix that. And sometimes I have to re-record and overdub myself, which never sounds good. Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah. Right. I also I've got a video as well where the audio just like I didn't turn the microphone on like an idiot, so I've got to go and re-record the audio. I just want to die. I've been putting it off for 6 months. I recorded it last year.
So I use OBS to do like screen recording. So I got an RPG video the one that's coming out tomorrow actually, where I recorded like 10 minutes of the I'll be right back screen because I had accidentally hit the wrong button while I was still in OBS as opposed to the PDF viewer. So I'm like, shit, I got to go back and fix that. So back we go, overdub it. Then we got multiple videos to stitch together. That's just fun. It sounds like Joe sort of enjoys the editing process. I find it complete torture, and I hate doing it. It doesn't help that I don't think I'm very good at it. I'm certainly not very fast at it. I think I spent 3 hours editing today. The sale video that'll be live at some point in the next couple of days. It's like a 45-minute video, so I guess I'm getting better. But it's not a fun or enjoyable process for me.
For me, it's been a learning experience because I've always wanted as a goal to take less time to edit without sacrificing quality. And I found actually I record with an iPhone. This is an iPhone 11 Pro, and then there's an app that comes made for the iPhone called Vue, VUE, and then I film the clips back there on the table, and I narrate as I film the short clips, and then you just hit all the clips that you want, and it puts them automatically on a timeline. And I set a standard transition, and then I do the first editing step is for me to watch the video in the phone, and then when I want to change to another topic, I put a more dramatic transition, and after that, I just render one whole video here that goes to my computer where I have the intro and outro and the text, and that's how I'm making these playthroughs. That the same day that I film, I edit and they go up, and because it's something that I think keeps people from doing videos is the editing. Yes. Because it's but if it's well done, I think it makes a ton of a difference. I mean, depending on the kind of video that you're making.
Yeah, well, at once again, I'm surprising no one in saying that Joe is operating at a completely different level than most of the rest of us.
Yeah, Joe has what I like to call production value.
Right.
We all think we're desktop Spielbergs. He is.
Yeah, and check out the war room Joe is is joining us from. By the way, it's an amazing war room that Joe has behind him here. I have a shelf.
I always tell everybody and all my viewers, and I have people. If you're interested in hopping in and trying, give it a shot. Call me and I'll help you out with because there's ways that won't break the bank that you can start with. I mean, everybody has a cellular phone, and editing programs are very inexpensive, and and some that are very easy to use. And just give it a try because there's no way that us four can cover all the games that there are there. There's so many games that never see the light of day, and we need more. I think it's always good to have more people because even everybody has their own style and their own specialty of what they do. And wargaming is it's a profound hobby. We see now the good thing about the pandemic is that finally everybody sees the designers' faces. Nobody saw these people before. They're just a name on a box, and now everybody's doing. You guys are doing interviews, and they're really interesting, and so that's one thing that we can learn from, and everybody does different kinds of things, and you can do them well.
Alexander, you guys are using like an actual video camera or SLR type camera, or are you guys just using cell phones like us peasants?
No, so a couple years ago, as a graduation gift, I got a small DSLR that has a video capacity in it. So we used that, and we forked out and got like a nice Rode shotgun microphone for it because the onboard mic is unconscionably bad. But yeah, so we do use that. Although, like for the longest time, it was on my phone. It was on whoever's phone had enough battery at the time. Like that's how everyone starts. Like, and it is easy to start in that sense. Just you've got a phone, just use it.
Yeah.
Just get a little tripod and just use it.
I mean, I'll be honest. Because I've been looking at like bigger, theoretically more capable cameras, and you can get a camera that's better than the camera in my phone, but it's going to be super expensive.
Yes.
And I don't want to spend like $1,200 on a camera, to be honest. This is a Samsung Galaxy 10, and I do all my filming on it, other than the webcam that we're on right now, which honestly the phone's a lot better than the webcam.
Yes.
Even the sound is better. The sound comes very clear through the phone microphone. Mo, are you using just cell phones?
No, actually, I rarely use my cell phone. I had a Handycam when I started doing the videos, and I was using that. And it was only up 720p, so I went and bought another one that does 1080i or 1080p, I should say. And I had thought about getting a DSLR, but then I was like, I'll just go with this. This is simple. This is fine. And I use that, and then I have a lav mic that I use. So I've got that connected when I'm doing my unboxings or reviews or anything. I did shoot one or two videos with the phone, and I just used a little tripod, put it down. Like if I'm going to give a quick impressions or a quick play or something like that, I'll use that. And then I have the Blue Yeti here that I use for doing the shows and talking online. And then also for some of the video games I've done reviews on or done previews on, I've used this because it's got good quality. It's nice and rich tone to it. And, you don't have to worry about messing up with your sound. But when it comes to editing, I use I use Cyberlink Power Director, and you can get that really cheap, and it's a really good program. And it also has sound processing too, so that way you can process in post. You can do your audio editing as well as your video, so you can make sure your video is good, your transitions, lighting, everything, and then you can also make sure that you get rid of background noises as best you can, and then make sure your sound is level and everything else all the way through.
I use Vegas Movie Studio Platinum, I think 13 for video editing, and it doesn't have audio processing in it, but I can like open the audio track in an audio program, in my case Audacity, which is Audacity's free. It's Vegas Movie Studio Platinum was not, but you could find it on sale on Steam for $30 sometimes. And I am nowhere close am I to operating that program at full capacity. It's got tons of features that I haven't the vaguest idea how to use. I'm very lucky I managed to insert text sometimes to correct the latest stupid thing that I said.
But you learn by doing, because you're forced to learn. So
yes.
you learn how to do all those things, especially when you screw up. You're like, how can I hide this? And you go through like 4 hours of trying to fix it, and you go, fuck it. I'm going to either have to reshoot this or I'm going to have to just go with it as is. And then you're worried over it and no one even notices it. And you're like,
yeah, they don't care.
Wasted all that time.
Yeah, sometimes, and it's weird because sometimes the folks people are super forgiving about this stuff, and other times they're absolute dicks and jump on the certain people that fortunately have, very few of these people have I had to deal with, but sometimes there's a certain personality type that will just jump on the tiniest problem. You might as well throw this video away because you have made this error in rule 17.2a.
That's where you say to the person, great, looking forward to seeing the content on your channel.
Those channels are always blank. Yep. This creator has no content.
I just say thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Like I still got paid. Who cares?
Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening, by the way. We are up to 90 people watching at this moment. I don't know if it's been higher than that or not.
It was probably up to 120, and then everybody saw that Alexander did not have a
when I got
leopard
on, I
print
scared
shirt.
everyone away. Yeah. Speaking of, I know Patchwork had asked, so I use a Rode video mic is what it's called. It's just a $150 shotgun mic. It's very high quality. And my DSLR is a Lumix G7, I think.
Nice.
Not super cheap.
Not a Rode as in street mic.
No. No.
I also use the Blue Yeti. It's you can find them on sale for about $100 occasionally, not very often. Normally the price is like $130, depending on what color you want. But it's super. It's USB. You plug it in and it works. They're super forgiving.
Really?
You can
Let's
even
see if
do
this
stuff
shows
like
up.
put it up here. Not sort of.
That's
Oh, Grant's here!
Oh my God.
he says it's proof. He just posted, sorry I had to miss a stimulating conversation, but here's picture evidence of my current condition.
Yeah.
All right.
He looks happy.
We were joking that it must be eye surgery that he had.
Oh, no, it's not.
Talking about microphones, I use this is the Shure MV88. You plug it here to the iPhone, and it's a condenser type microphone. And then you can with the app that it brings, you can dictate the field. And of course, I have it in a cardioid mode, so I stand behind in front of the cell phone, and it picks my voice as I move the camera around. It works great. It's about $150. Well, I tell people, if you're going to start doing it with iPhones, spend the $150 because good audio is a must.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's a real turn off where after a couple of minutes that you hear echo or bad audio, it's really bad. Sometimes good audio is even more important than good video in some occasions.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
100%. That's why it's worth paying for that equipment. And the other thing too, which I learned the hard way when I was out in California now interviewing Gene and all those people, I had the way we had to interview, we had to use tables that we were sitting at to hold the tripod. And everybody, when they talk, likes to touch the table. It's constant bang, bang, bang. And it was so loud. And I went and processed it to try to get rid of all those thuds. And I got a lot of them out. So even though the audio quality on that was less than stellar because of the touching the thing, because it just transmits right through into the camera, it was thankfully a lot better in the end than it was originally. But there's another question about light kits.
Yeah, I have a couple of cheapy lights that I bought from Amazon when they were on sale. I want to say they were $20 a piece, and they're just these little USB fluorescent lights. You can put cards in them if you want red lights or whatever, which I like to call U-boat mode, which I've never used for anything. But
also not a war game.
Yeah,
I was going to say, don't you use it when you're playing U-boat?
I'm just saying, I wouldn't know, Mo.
Best one war game to win a war game prize.
Lighting is super important. I mean, even just playing war games, I find that lighting is, I mean, I got relatively bad eyes. I find that lighting is super important just normally, right? Mm-hmm. But definitely lighting is super important. I got this thing for video making, which is a ring light, and you're going to see why I don't use it because it looks way too bright. I'm pale enough, so we're gonna leave that turned off.
Do they have a way to toggle that?
That's the lowest setting.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So, yes, there's a toggle, but apparently it's just too powerful for what I'm using it for. Or it's too close to my face, which is probably more likely.
You have to balance that light.
Because I'm kind of in this like little tiny desk area, everything has to be on an arm attached to the desk. So I can only get it so far away.
True.
Well, with the lighting, the trick in wargaming, also the dilemma is that many people use plexiglass, right? So whatever you use as lighting is going to show up in the plexiglass, and it's a pain in the ass because you have to be moving the camera to an angle where you won't see your ceiling lights. Now, right now, what I use is I got two LED panels, and I have my table in the middle, exact middle, but my table has a trick that the surface is like a chalkboard magnetic surface, black chalkboard magnetic surface. Why? Because the chalkboard surface won't reflect. Will be no reflection, and it's magnetic. So paper maps, I hold them with little magnets, so I don't have to use plexiglass. So I don't have that problem with the light, because I know that's a real pain. The plexiglass shows very easily, and the thing with light, you have to have more than one point of light, otherwise you're going to have some huge shadows. And they recommend 3-point lighting, but at least I think 2 works well for me, because it's a big panel, but you need at least 2 points of light. I used to use soft boxes, but now that I moved to this room, I put the LED lights and they work fine.
The anti-glare plexiglass I have tested, and it does not. It's pretty disappointing.
Yeah,
it does not mediate the problem as well as I had hoped.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, is it a little bit better? Yeah, but on camera it looks almost just as bad. You're still getting a fair amount of glare off of it, unfortunately. Stuka Joe, as usual, is doing it right with the magnetic board and magnets is probably the best idea.
He's just hoarding all the secrets. I wish I'd have known that before.
Why do you think I asked
I can do a video on magnets.
I've actually noticed, Joe, that then I didn't realize it was just so you could not use plexi, of course, because I'm dumb. But I've noticed that Joe is using magnets to hold his mouth.
All kinds of magnets here.
It looks like a makeup bag.
Huh?
Looks like a makeup bag.
I'm losing subscribers right now with the bag, but it's okay.
Don't judge.
I'm not at all. Just commenting.
Yeah, I mean, while I'm gaming, I find that the glare on plexi, you just move a little bit and you're fine, right? But for filming, you don't necessarily have that much flexibility. You have to have a specific angle that the camera's coming on. You're looking at it from an angle, and it just doesn't help as much as you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than trying to take a picture of a board game to tweet out or something. You ask Grant, he'll have to contort himself to get a picture where there's no glare on it, but it's still a half decent picture of some of the components in the part of the board we're playing on. Because and I've got 4-point lighting in here. I just bought some soft boxes as well, but we have lots of light. That's what I really cared about, because I hate playing when it's dim. My eyes don't work all that well anyway. So
I sympathize totally. I've had BGG bounce my pictures for having glare off the plexi.
Really?
Yeah, That's why I don't submit pictures to Board Game Geek anymore, actually, because I got mad at them at one point. You sons of bitches, I'm going to have my pictures then.
That's pretty draconian considering it's for war games. How many pictures are getting submitted for OCS? That's my question.
I think it actually was OCS. As you can imagine, I have a lot of OCS pictures.
What else was it going to be? ASL? I mean, had a 50-50 chance of getting it right.
I haven't, man. I've played ASL like a number of times I can count on one hand in the last 5 years, actually. So, reputation aside,
when it comes for taking pictures, though, you were talking about Alexander, when you're taking pictures with plexi. One of the things I've found, what I do when I run into that is distance is your friend, because pull back a little bit and then zoom in with the camera if you're using the camera and take your picture that way. Because if you try to get right in there, the closer you're in, the closer the angle, the harder the angle, the light is going to be on that glass. So if you pull back, you're kind of changing that angle. You're knocking the light off with a longer focal length. So that way you can just kind of zoom in off the camera, because all the cameras now zoom in really well. Just hold on to it real steady, take a picture, and try that, as a way to save Grant from having to throw his back out or anything, taking these pictures.
It's pretty funny at times watching them suffer.
There you go. Shoot a video of that. Not let them know about it. Just have your camera going like this and then post it up.
He always does that to me as well. I'll be shooting a part of the video that he's not in, or I'm doing something else, and he's always taking pictures behind my back, showing, because I'm oh, look, I've got all these nice games on shelves. Ooh. And then he take a picture shooting this way, and you can see all of my crap over here that I try to keep out of shot.
Don't worry, we'll take it out in post.
Ruining the illusion.
Yes, I'm no. They'll see I'm an actual hoarder. Oh no.
The trick. Oh, you guys don't even get to see my garbage. The trick that Mo talked about, where you back up a little bit and then zoom in, is probably going to be a trick that works better if you're using an actual video camera. I have tried that on my phone camera, and I find that it does not work particularly well.
Really,
it becomes grainy because it doesn't have a real zoom lens, right?
It's a digital zoom in it.
Well, you
Yeah.
can either zoom in or you can just take the picture and then just crop the image to just showing that section of the board.
Yes.
That's another way of doing it too.
Yes, and also if you have the highest possible resolution for photos set, that'll help. But it also makes all the files bigger. Maybe you have memory concerns on your phone. I've got a 128 gig card in this thing, so I never run out of space.
And as soon as you post it anywhere or send it to anyone, it gets compressed anyway, and you're like, yeah, great.
Yeah, well, I delete them after I'm done. It gets connected to the computer and moved over to the computer, and then I delete it off the phone. I don't want to keep up. I mean, I will run out of 128 gigs of space pretty quickly on a phone if I don't do that.
That's true, but it's all a part of the tricks that everybody does to try to get better pictures, get some information out there. But the key is that you're sharing those pictures, you're getting the information out, and you're showing that you're playing these games, and you get more people excited, and that's the whole point of one of the responsibilities, I guess you could say, of a content creator, or the aims of a content creator, is to try to help generate that buzz for these games and get everybody excited about them.
The thing is, the games they're games in the first place, but then they're works of art also. And you want to capture the counter artist is somebody, and the map artist is some other guy normally. And there's some patterns and palettes, and you want to capture all that in the video, and you got to get close. I mean, there's no other way around it. And to give the viewer, I like to put the viewer in my seat, like in front of the game, and when focusing on a mechanic and a specific procedure, just zoom in there, not pretty close, and so that you get what you would see if you had the game in front of you, and then you choose if you like the game or not. I mean, that's your decision, and to do that, obviously you need to have the equipment and also the plexi doesn't help. That's a reality.
Honestly, pictures on social media is one of the reasons we started doing the Players Aid blog. We would just playing regular board games, and then we just started dipping our toes into things. And one of the first earlier ones we played was like Liberty or Death, which is a gorgeous production value.
Beautiful game.
We didn't know how popular it was. Because Coin had been out for a while, we had no idea, and so we were just playing it. And Grant was taking pictures of all these great wooden pieces on this gorgeous map, and we were playing it. I don't know. It was on some national holiday, and he was just tweeting it out.
4th of July.
I can't remember if it was or not. It may have been, or like around then. It was something like that. But he was tweeting it out on like his personal account. And people were just like loving it because it looks so good, and that's a big enticement to play a game that people who don't play war games might be scared off by. Because it's a war game. It's not. But,
there's nothing wrong with good looking and smart. You want to play a game and so good looking. Can't go wrong.
All those interactions was like, well, maybe there's something here.
That
it's so good that he's frozen.
Apparently, we have had a bandwidth hitch in Indiana, apparently. So let's hope Alexander recovers from that.
And interact with...
Sort of.
Am I back?
No.
Slow motion, Alexander.
We had mugshot Alexander.
Whatever Alexander was saying, I am sure it was like the secret of life.
I'm sure it was meaningless.
42.
Go ahead and repeat that, though, because we heard very little of it. After the way this looks great.
We're talking about the shipwreck.
I don't remember. But basically, from all those interactions that we had, people suggested a million games for us to play, and so we just started playing them, and more people were talking to us about it, and so we wanted to talk back to them, so we, let's just write about it. And that's basically how we started, and I love going online to see pictures of people's war games that they're playing, because if I see a game that looks interesting, that's one of the first things that's going to make me want to play it. It's really simple. I'm a visual kind of person in that way. If a game looks cool, I'll be much more interested in doing it. And seeing pictures is a real benefit to me. That's why I love going online to look at pictures of games.
See, I'm so stupid. It didn't even occur to me that you would just mitigate the filming problems associated with plexiglass by filming games on mounted boards. So that didn't, I didn't even think of that. Even though I've done that, right, and had been able to say, "Hey, Paths of Glory, I don't need to put plexi on this because it's a mounted board."
Yeah, but some mounted boards have a damn glare to them.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I go, man, that's just like, and some particular manufacturers, which I won't mention, it's like having a plexiglass on top of them, but you can't do anything there. There you got it.
Yeah.
I'll mention Dan Verson games.
I own one of their games, and I am totally delighted with it and have no complaints. So,
You mean they have glare on everything?
I don't know. I only have ever owned the
mounted
one game.
boards or paper is very glossy.
Okay. The one I have is Field Commander Napoleon. So, and I think it does have
Glossy.
pretty glossy boards, as I
Yeah,
recall.
it's pretty satin. It's nice though.
Yeah.
I love that game.
It's a wonderful game. Speaking of games, let's talk about what kinds. I mean, Joe and I talked kind of a little bit before the stream, so I'll let Joe respond first. But what kinds of games he finds it more difficult or easier to do content on?
Well, first, you see that table? This is 30 by 60, so it's got to fit on that table. That's the first thing. So there go the monster games.
Yes.
So and we were talking about the magic of the monster game is the whole thing, not the scenario number 25 that the little German squad that entered the town and got butchered. Nobody cares about that. So so I do one mappers. There are two mappers that will certain overlap will fit on that table. So I like to film one mappers, and then these games that have huge stacks of counters. It's like, okay, now the Chrysler building is attacking the Pan Am building, 150 factors, and then sifting
I
through
feel
that.
triggered.
It's like, I know Dan Pancali is going to get pissed off at me. He's my good friend, but there's some sports that televise better than others. And like hockey is not one of them.
What?
Because you can't see the damn puck. I mean, unless you played the game or been watching it for 20 years, you can't see the puck. So, and in wargaming, there's some games that televise better than others. Normally, it's those that don't have a lot of counters. And think about it. When you have a ton of counters, they're all bunched up in the critical part of the map where the action is going, right? Like you don't see any counters in Switzerland or Spain in a Europe game, right? You can put your beer in Switzerland if you want to. And then it's all the front line and the second line and the third line crammed with counters on both sides. So the counters conceal the terrain. You can't see what's going on. So those kind of games I try to avoid. For me, less is more. And I like the designers who appreciate that you don't need 1,000 counters to portray the Battle of the Bulge all the time. You can do it with less, with one map. And that's the kind of games that I enjoy playing. I mean, when I go to Consum World, I admire the guys that play those monster games. I say hello to them. I film them. But I play the one mappers. I like to go and play 4, 5, 6 games when I can. So those are the games that I like to film.
That sounds completely reasonable. As somebody that plays a fair amount of monster games, I mean, I obviously agree. It's very difficult to do good content on monster games. I don't know that it's impossible. There are certainly things you can do, like playing small scenarios and small map sections, for example. But even so, a lot of times the pace of a monster game is just too slow. This is why I don't do live OCS play. It's terrible content. I did it, and it is unwatchable garbage. It's just the game. It just moves way too slow. I mean, realistically, I'm being straight up here. When we're playing OCS at a big convention, we say, "Okay, I'm done. It's your turn now. I'll be back in an hour." I mean, that's a real thing, and we have to be there for part of their turn, but not. I mean, I could still give them an hour and come back and still wait another hour before they're ready to deal with the part of the turn that I have to interact with. So I mean, in a lot of monster games, not all. I mean, certainly there are games that maybe feel like a mini monster, like an Unconditional Surrender, that is more constant activity.
not as many killer stacks necessarily, but still needs to be on the table for quite a while.
Yeah, it's about a 40, 50-hour game. I mean, you can play it in a short convention as opposed to a long convention. That's what I call a mini monster. It's a game I can play in Origins. But I mean, it's monster games are very difficult to make content on that's coherent and is watchable. I mean, it's very difficult. It's great when I see it, but it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Well, or it's one of those things where you make a series and thousands of people watch the first one and no one watches any of the other 12 that you've labored over.
Right.
Or you just do an AAR where you take a shot of the situation before everybody did their one turn. Then you take a picture afterwards so everybody can see the 2 hexes that everybody moved over those 2 hours. You know,
but you lose all that 2 hours worth of mechanics, which is what
you lose all the mechanics, but you show the arrows. But the thing is if you can shoot that a little bit at a time over the course of the entire game, which might take a couple weeks or months, whatever, then you can come out with like a 5 or 7 minute video. You condense it all down to 5 or 7 minutes and say, hey, this is what we've been doing for the past 6 months. And it's 7 minutes long. And people are like, wow, it takes that long to play that? It's like, well, yeah. That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right. We were talking about, I mean, to me, the sort of the key part of the monster game experience is the ability to focus on the game for an extended period, a long number of turns and many, many, many hours, right? Whether those many hours are, 3 hours a week on Tuesday nights or 12 hours a day for 5 or 6 days of a convention, you're able to focus on that game and immerse yourself in it to an extent that it's harder to do with smaller games because they're over by the time you're really into it. And in the case of a convention monster game, you can kind of see how the game evolves over the course of the convention, interacting with all the players, not just what you're doing.
Now, Kyle has a good comment there about doing the Madden style commentary.
That's a great idea, actually.
And boom, they come around the right side, and the Soviets sock him one right in the gut, knock his hat off.
That would be fantastic.
Do the accent, though.
I need volunteer editors to help me with that project, however.
That would be fun to do. Something like that would be fun.
Because that's what it would take.
But I mean, a monster game in the end, it's a hex encounter game, right? Is there a monster game that is not a hex encounter game?
Do we count Empires in Arms? I would. You could take 100 hours to play that game, so I would. It's area movement. Nevertheless,
maybe 95% are hex encounter games. So,
yeah.
So you can grab a non-monster one mapper game and really show nice mechanics like the Mark Simonich games. I mean, it's something that it can be watchable,
Yeah, you could. It would be very easy, and there's actually some very good video on Normandy 44, for example, from that series, if you want to call it a series, where it really does get to highlight the mechanics. The game moves relatively quickly, so you can get like a whole game done in a relatively short number of hours without necessarily making boring video out of it.
I don't know, Tony. I kind of just make them up on the fly. He's asking, how many impressions do I have?
You guys don't get to see mine. I've got hold on. And I'm Grant.
And I'm Alexander, but I can't do that right now.
Yeah, see,
I'm
I can't,
Alexander.
I cannot do you without making it feel too mean-spirited.
I know. Well, no,
So
I don't
want to do it.
I don't. Clearly, I don't care. Clearly, I don't care.
And I'm Alexander.
No, you got to say Alexander. That's how he does it.
No,
I remember the first time I met those guys at WBC, he's like, it's like, I'm Grant. And he's like, I'm Alexander. I was just like, yeah, I know that from your videos, guys.
There's a video, Alexander, that you spoke in an American accent. I was cracking up for a week on that. That was just incredible. That was something.
So here's the thing. Like, there are times where doing what we do feels a little bit like a job, where I'm like, okay, we got to play this game and do a review for it because this nice company asked us to for their Kickstarter or whatever. And so then, like, halfway through a review, I realize I'm like, oh, we're just like two amateur chumps, and so we'll just start laughing and like joking with each other. I'm like, oh, they're not mad at us for what we're doing.
So I've encountered these guys at multiple conventions, okay, and they are working, right? They are on the job, laser focused. I'm just running around like an asshole, taking pictures and playing games, and they're like, no, we have a checklist here. We have to mark off number 3A that we have to talk to so and so and made an arrangement for blah 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 blah. I mean, it's a job for these guys.
It's true.
So
to answer Harold's question, yes.
Yes,
all of them.
all three. Everybody's going to have a different definition of that.
Yeah,
I guess
true.
a lot of people would define it as a game that's too big to conveniently play.
Yeah, to me, the time is the real factor.
Size
because
too.
Usually, size goes along with time. Like if a game takes 40 hours, it's usually big.
Unless it's an 18xx game.
Oh, those games are not for me.
Let's see, we call those filler games here. Those 40-hour games that we play in as I'm not even. I mean, I'm kind of making fun of myself here. We literally set those up as side games while we're playing OCS. So, but I mean, we've been over this topic, and we're actually going to talk. Dan and I are going to talk on Wednesday about the topic of monster games. So maybe we can revisit that. Check us out at No Enemies Here at that time. Mo, what do you think is the hardest part of being a content creator in the wargaming space?
The time involved. People don't realize the amount of time that takes to do these things. Shooting anything takes time, then editing, or you can just shoot it and not edit and throw it up. Some people do that, which is great. But you're trying to constantly think of things to do and how to do it, whether it's going to be already pre-shot stuff or live stuff, and how you can, extend reach to other people. It's not necessarily about extending reach because there's no ratings here. It's not like we're getting paid millions of dollars. This is, we're unpaid for the most part. Yeah, you get some free games. You might get a couple dollars for ad dollars here and there, but it's really not something that you're going to quit your day job for. That's for damn sure. But you want to try to extend the community as much as possible. What can you do to help people? What information can you convey to people that may not know about war games? What can you do for people who know about war games to give them more information? And what can you do to bring, shed a light on different people, whether it be content creators, designers, publishers, whatever, because that's what we're here for, is to try to help the community grow. Because the more the community grows, the better it is for us, because we're greedy. We want more games to get made, so we have more stuff to get played. So if we make everybody succeed, it's all good for everybody.
Joe?
Well, for me, it's I like to play war games because of the stories they tell. So I'll take a game. For example, I did a playthrough recently on the Turkish, the War for Turkish Liberation. That's a magazine game nobody had made a video for. And then I like to do music also. And I did this song that had like a Turkish beat. And I said, well, this goes with a game with the Turks. So let me see what games I have with the Turks. I had a couple of games and I said, let me look. I read some articles and this one had a pretty good review. So I picked that game. And then I noticed the game needed like player aids to be more playable, because it had like 13 factions and each faction had a different supply source, reinforcement rules, and everything. So I did these little cards. So I like doing also like player aids for the games to improve them. I have a thing about magazine games. I'm kind of a sucker for magazine games. With magazine games, I see the glass half full. Some people see it half empty. I see it half full. And sometimes they need like a little push to be even more playable and more attractive. So I like to, if I can improve them, I like to also do the player aids for the game. So it's not just the video, it's also, I like to put music on the videos, tell a story, and appeal to a wide variety of wargamers, because not everybody's a wargamer for the same reason. Some people like the history, some people like the components. Some people, it's very different for all kinds of people. So I try to do different things and put them on the same format. And the playthrough format is the one I enjoy the most, actually. And I combine there the music with the credits, with the playthrough aspect, and also gaming aids. So
you're a great storyteller, Joe. You really do tell great stories with your videos.
Thanks.
Probably, Joe is, I mean, if anybody watching this does not know about Stuka Joe's legendary B-17 Queen of the, I'm going to embarrass him.
Oh, yeah. No.
B-17 Queen of the Skies videos. Go watch those on his channel. It's amazing, engrossing narrative through that game, in which no meaningful decisions are made by the player at any time. And it's the best content in the history of wargaming on YouTube is that
Mhm.
B-17 series. It's amazing. Handmade custom components. I mean, who does that,
the
Joe?
custom crew members. So Joe's B-17 videos are part of what inspired me to like start doing videos. I did a couple on Silent Victory, and I just basically straight copied what Joe was doing. Felt like a schlub, but flattery and all that kind of stuff. But like I learned so many different games from watching Joe's videos. And then that's part of something that we wanted to kind of do, like to give back as well. I'm like, there's so much room for more people to learn about more of these games like we did.
Yeah, it's like Band of Brothers. It's required viewing if you're Grognard.
Yeah,
Gotta watch it.
And A Bridge Too Far and Gettysburg, and
Yep.
contact us after the show for the official approved film list.
No, I mean it's Stuka Joe's videos. This is what I'm saying. That B-17 is it's like required viewing. You got to watch it.
Yeah, you watch Memphis Belle, then watch that.
Memphis Belle, exactly.
YouTube took out the audio in the first episode because I used some song or something. So I'm searching for the video. I think I recorded it somewhere with the audio, so I have to take that part now and re-record the narrator and put some other music. So I'll be hopefully reissuing episode number 1.
That's the YouTube robot that does that. I got hit with that. I put about 15, 20 seconds of marching through Georgia in a video once, and like a day later, I got nasty emails from YouTube.
Copyright strike.
Yeah. It wasn't a copyright strike, which is a big deal, but it was just like, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
This is trouble I do not need. What Alexander and Mo both mentioned is terms of sort of showcasing the hobby is something that definitely inspired by Joe's stuff. That got me interested in it, or kept me doing videos. Actually, I wanted to do stuff that was like introducing war games to people, bearing in mind again that when I got back into wargaming, it wasn't obvious to me necessarily that there was much going on besides the ASL. And I ended up doing probably my I think number 1 wargaming video is that Paths of Glory instructional series that never got finished. Because I ran out of gas on it, and then 3 years, I can't pick it up 3 years later and just pick it up with episode 5. That's not going to happen. So, but it seemed like a good place to start to introduce people to war games, which sounds super naive now that I think about it. Since I think wargaming is doing better now, it seems to me, than one could reasonably expect. Especially given the situation in the late 90s where, Avalon Hill's gone away now and SPI's been dead for 18 years. And everybody that's left are these little tiny rinky-dink companies like GMT. Who are these guys? They're a bunch of nobodies, right? Landscape's very, well, at the time, right?
They were. Yeah, at the time
right.
they were a small.
They just got started. They've done 3 games so far. I mean, so in retrospect, that sounds asinine, right? There's so much going on in the wargaming space right now, even in the context of old school hex and counter stuff, let alone when we start getting into the people who are really trying to stretch the boundaries of the field, like your David Thompsons and your Harold Buchanan's doing some interesting things, and Kevin Bertram's doing some really interesting crossover stuff as well.
I travel to Spain now to the Bellota Con. Alexander and Mo and Ardwulf, when you can go over there. It's very interesting because it's like a fusion point between American wargaming and European wargaming, and there's a lot of interesting mechanics. There was a game that
I want to go over there for the food.
Yeah, that I saw there that's going to be published in Europe. For some reason, no American company would publish it. It's a game about the German High Command, World War II. And at the beginning, you're expanding, and then you're going to have all the problems associated with all, with all the enemies coming from different directions. And it's a fascinating game, but I think no American company wanted to touch it nowadays over here. It's a fascinating game because the fact is the Germans were the only ones in that situation in World War II. They had a central position, and they're coming from. It's like States of Siege.
States of Siege, yeah.
But very detailed. It's a card game with all the leaders, all the generals, and then there can be a plot to kill Hitler and everything in the middle. And that's a Spanish designer, and with Euro mechanics, it has wood. It's a very refreshing kind of a place to see new kinds of war games. Volko Runke has gone the last 2 years. He's coming with his Almoravid game because he did also research there, and so it's this is a world phenomenon. And I guess Alexander, Mo, and Ardwulf, if you check your viewers, they're all over the world.
Oh yeah. So
True.
I'm very interested about what you've said there, because with what Gary said, when Avalon Hill and SPI went away, the companies that survived or were just birthed at that point, basically, they were all American companies. And so even today, it's insanely expensive to get a lot of those games imported into parts of Europe. So the Europeans are just making their own games, and it's the Wild West out there. We get contacted by companies all the time, or they send us copies of games, and it's always something very different.
I have to beg, just so we're
just a second. The name of the game is Al Otro Lado de la Colina, which translates the other side of the hill. If you Google it, you'll find it. It's a Spanish design.
There's I'm aware of at least one other game from, I believe, a Spanish designer. Have you seen Democracy Under Siege? I think it was published by an Italian publisher, but I believe the designer was out of Spain. And I've played that. That's a very interesting game.
I think he's Italian also.
Is he?
Yeah, he's Italian also.
Okay.
That's like Origins of World War II on steroids. Remember that game?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, actually, if you're interested in a copy of Origins of World War II, please watch the sale video tomorrow. There is one for sale. That's another one of those Jim Dunnigan 30 years ahead of its time designs, though.
Yeah.
So do you know when that game's coming out? Other Side of the Hill?
It's coming out this year. It's coming out from Europe, and it's something that I've never seen something like that.
That sounds very interesting.
Very, yeah. Absolutely. The funny thing is people will see that when one of us gets it or all of us get it and do videos and stuff, and they'll be like, wow, I want to get a copy of this, and where can I get it? Well, you're gonna have to order from Europe.
Yep.
Well, why couldn't we get it here? It's like, well, think about
we're playing the Germans.
Yeah, for some reason that
half of the games I play the Germans.
Yeah, I don't know. It's history, and it's a take on history, and I don't see a reason why you can't. I
don't know.
I get so many comments from people about how awful it is to be not in the United States and buy war games. That I am prepared to just call this, what's fair is fair. If the Europeans can't get MMP product, and they find, for some reason, I have become MMP's complaint department on this particular issue. And then, if we can't get this latest Spanish game that sounds really neat, then I guess, we're just going to have to call it a day. That's just karma, right?
Yeah.
The Australians have it way worse. There's literally one guy making war games in Australia, or at least publishing war games in Australia, and even he is printing them in the Czech Republic. So,
I'm sure they'll print this one in English. They're going to do a Spanish edition. They'll print it in English.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that definitely sounds interesting. I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, Four Dados is actually the company that produces Democracy Under Siege as well, and it's it's pretty interesting game. It's got a lot. There's a lot to it. I mean, it's Euro type mechanics, but there's a lot going on in that thing.
That game, Democracy Under Siege. I think Luca Camisa is the designer. He's Italian.
Okay, I'm sure Dan will have words with me on Wednesday for confusing an Italian with a Spaniard. So we are out of my talking points, so we can pretty much, as long as everybody wants to continue hanging around, we can just talk about whatever. I know that, Mo, what's coming up on your channel?
Well, this week I've got, I originally was going to have another Whiskey Charlie episode. That's been pushed because I've got something else I'm working on, and it's kind of time critical. So I'll be working on that. I may have an unboxing this week, and then we'll have 2 shows next month to make up for the lack of show this month, and kind of catch up on that. But hockey's eating up a lot more of my time now because that's in full swing. So I'll be busy with that this week, along with any content I can shoot this week. But next week I am taking Thursday and Friday off, so I will be shooting more video. Maybe catch up on some reviews that I'm really, really far behind on.
Yeah, I'm in that department as well. Maybe we'll talk about that. Joe,
Yeah.
what do you got coming up in the immediate future?
I'm filming a video on a game, Spanish game called Navíos de Línea, Ships of the Line. This is their second volume that's going to come up, I suppose, later this year. That has the battles of Abu Qir and 3 more battles. So it's a tactical system. It's like a little bit like Wooden Ships and Iron Men, but you don't have to plot the orders. And the ships look like you remember the Broadside game by Milton Bradley?
Yes, broadsides at boarding parties.
You got your blue and your red ships. I know people paint these ships to make them look like the real thing, but I mean these come in blue and red, and it's a tactical game. It has a basic and advanced version, and then after that I'll do a playthrough series on something, but I haven't figured out what that is going to be yet.
Alexander, what do you and Grant have on the horizon?
So we have a lot of stuff. I have so I don't know how everyone else works. When we get together, we try to make as much video content as possible because we don't live all that close to each other, so we're just trying to cram it out. So I have a backlog of about 5 or 6 reviews that I need to put out. Things like Jacobite Rising, Salerno to Rome, Napoleon 1807, and a bunch more. And then we also have a video just talking about all of the non-war games that we played last year as well. And then there's a trillion unboxings that we just kind of throw in as well.
I will be sure to watch that so that I can snark in the comments about it.
Oh yeah, everyone will be like, "Oh, get back to war games."
Yes. Oh, I see that you peasants are too lowborn to play war games anymore.
And I talked about Imperial Struggle in that video just to piss everyone off.
Oh, that's awesome. I should probably ask you about that. And then I have actually a ton of videos this week. I've got an RPG video, I think, tomorrow. I have the sale video going live tomorrow. I have a game about War in Europe, a video about War in Europe going live on Wednesday, and I have an unboxing of an OSG title on Thursday. So that's this week. So I don't normally get quite this much content out. Kyle is asking, what is our favorite game series? Alexander, do you have a favorite game series?
Well, let's have a little look. Coin series is up there for sure because I like it because it's eminently playable and it supports lots of people. So if we're at conventions or there's groups of people, I like to play with lots of people. I like the social aspect of gaming a lot. That's a big draw to me. So if I can sit with 4 people and play a war game, I love that.
Joe, do you have a favorite war game series?
I really don't. I really don't have a favorite war game series, and I haven't played as many games as you would think I have. So I play
like
neither have I.
Despite the 1,100 games behind you.
Yeah, what's all that?
It's just wallpaper, guys. It's a background.
I can do a shrink wrap opening of War and Peace from Avalon Hill. I have a shrink wrap copy back there, but that would be a crime.
I've done unboxings of old Avalon Hill stuff before.
Yeah.
I did an unboxing of Source of the Nile, actually. Hey, I got it. I wanted to play it. I was like, well, hell, I'm just going to unbox it. And I got it for like $25 anyway. Mo, do you have a favorite game series?
Yeah, that I think there's 2 that I would say. The Lock and Load Tactical series obviously is one of them, but the favorite one that I think I have is the Next War series. Mitch has done a great job with that,
okay.
and I love that Next War series.
Yeah, I got that right back here too.
Yep. He does a great job with that, and I really dig modern stuff, especially when you play that, you get a good feel for the fact that modern warfare is not going to be anything like World War II, where you're fighting for years. It's going to be fighting days and weeks, maybe months at most, if we have big guys going at each other, not insurgencies, because the attrition rate is going to be so high that, because modern platforms are so lethal that you're going to be hearing reports on a daily basis of the U.S. just lost 1,500 fighters today or 500 fighters or something like that. That would happen, and the enemy lost that many too. It would be days to weeks, months at the most that these, conflicts would be. And you see that in the Next War series, which I think is really fantastic. He conveys that very well.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a variety. I tend to gravitate towards series games, so I can learn in principle anyway. You learn the rules. Once you can play a bunch of different games, right? This sounds good on paper, but shockingly, I'm not going to say OCS. I'm going to say Great Campaigns of the American Civil War and Great Battles of History are probably my favorite series. Now, I still play a ton of OCS. I still like OCS a lot, but you know, it's definitely on my short list. But it's not a favorite at the moment. Not knowing that it might change, you know, tomorrow could change tomorrow.
Yeah. If you asked me that tomorrow, I'd say a different series.
Yes, I totally could too.
Talking about unboxing old games, one of the previews I'm going to do is Operation Pegasus, which is an old game. And I was able to finally get a copy of the box game, not the small, what was that, Strike Force or whatever the heck? I can't think of the name of the company that made it originally, but they always make those small games. And it was actually Counter-Strike, because I got one of the other games here from Counter-Strike, which I've been meaning to play, which is Liberia, Descent into Hell. And they made that, and then they also made a box version, and I was able to get finally able to get a hold of a unpunched box copy of that. So that's one I want to play, but you really do need 2 players for that. So I'll eventually get to play that once everything opens back up, but I'll still play solitaire just to get a feel for it.
Joe, what do you think is an underserved topic for a war game that you'd like to see more games on?
Anything that's not World War II.
Yep.
That's fair.
I mean, World War II, you know, it's the war you can trust, right? You have the good guys, the bad guys. You have the Battle of the Bulge where you can attack and defend in the same game. But for me, it's what draws my attention is anything but World War II and learning about history through other conflicts. That's why I'm a sucker for magazine games, because I think the publishers take more risks with magazine games, and you find a lot of stinkers in magazine games, but you find a lot of good ideas starting in magazine games, and that's where you'll find all these conflicts that you don't know very much about, and you learn about them.
Yep.
Jenkins here,
and sometimes that's all it takes, right? That's playing one interesting game about a topic is what makes you interested in that topic. I would say. I mean, even in the case of World War II, there's all kinds of corners of World War II that we rarely see dealt with in war games. The whole British invasion into Vichy, Syria, the Operation Exporter. There's like one or two games dealing with that. Even like major theaters of World War II, like the China theater in China, the Second Sino-Japanese War that raged from 1937 to 1935. There's not that many games on that.
Well, I think you should do a list of all of those very slowly so David Thompson can keep writing down notes.
That's true. He's going to be reviewing this tomorrow with a notebook in hand.
Undaunted CBI.
Yes.
There's one World War II topic that I wish somebody would do an area impulse game on. That would be the Warsaw Rebellion in 1944. You know, when the Poles rose against the Russians, the Germans and the Russians were doing nothing right there. I think that would be a tremendous area impulse game. But I know John Prados did one in Strategy and Tactics, but the mechanics are kind of weird. It was a hex and counter game. That's the only one I know about the Warsaw Uprising. So, and one last pitch for magazine games. War gamers we're nitpickers and we bitch about things what we shouldn't be bitching. I'm gonna tell you what. We have a hobby that you get the hobby in the magazine. Some people like cars. You're not gonna get a car in a magazine. Some people like Sports Illustrated, the swimsuit edition, where you're not gonna get the model in the magazine, right? But you get a game in the magazine plus a bunch of articles. Okay, the game may be not fully finished, half baked. But if there was love in making that game and a good faith basis effort, the community nowadays is such warm and heart giving that they will make improvements for the game. Go to BGG and you'll see player aids and a lot of things for games that if the game would have had it originally, it should have been a boxed game. So that's why I'm a sucker for magazine games, and I know I know their shortcomings, but I look at them like a glass that is half full. In many cases, you just have to give a little more, and that's it.
Something also to be said for games that retail for $30 or $40 as opposed to 80 or 120. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm with Joe on magazine games, because the other thing about magazine games is they're usually unique subjects, and yeah, they're suffering some development issues, but that's where, as Joe was saying, you can step up and kind of learn a little about development by doing some house ruling on your own, or adding in new player aids, things like that. You can get creative and add to that and be part of the community by giving back itself to that game, and also making the game a lot more fun for yourself at the same time.
And there are also relatively small format games that tend to be easier to do that on. It's a lot harder to, to do aftermarket development on a game like War in Europe, for example.
And some are gorgeous, and some are coming even with cards. So I mean, they've developed quite nicely. I mean, so.
So, Alexander, what under detailed topics would you like to see a game on, or games?
Well, I'm trying to look at what I've got. I've got lots of stuff. It's tough because you don't know that you need it until you see it.
That's fair.
There's a part of that. So we played Brotherhood and Unity fairly recently, and I'm like, I've been actually waiting to play a game on that. And I think I have another game on that conflict.
There's another game on that conflict?
Right. There is, by Conflict Simulations Limited. And I had been waiting for that one to get released for a while. And then it did. And then we didn't play it because I'm lazy. But I still want to play it. But I would have said that conflict. Now I've got two of them on it. Like.
Well, when it rains, it pours, Sometimes topics will get, we have trends in the hobby. Topics will get hot, topics will cool off. For the longest time, the whole NATO versus Warsaw Pact in the 80s topic was deader than a doornail in this hobby. And now there has been a torrent of resurgence of interest in that particular topic. And everybody is doing games on that topic. The big publishers, the small publishers, the mid-sized publishers. Everybody's got something coming in that space. Now, I tend to see like topics like the Arab-Israeli wars come kind of in waves too. People will get interested in that topic, and we'll see a spurt of interest in it, and several games released, and then we won't see anything for another 10 years. That's another topic that's a topic that to me is not terribly interesting. What I think I would like to see more of is attempts to do operational games that are medieval or ancient subjects. We have historically seen very few of those titles. There's a few examples with ancients. There's almost none with medieval. The games are either tactical, where they're dealing with individual battles, or they're very, Empires of the Middle Ages type thing, where it's a very high level strategic thing and very abstract. We have seen very little in the operational space. On a lot of topics, actually, but to me, it shows its absence more in the ancients and medievals than anything else. And medieval, in particular, one of the things that we have on the horizon, though, is Volko's series, the Levian campaign series, is operational, and they are medieval subjects, and those are like the only medieval operational games I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
Mo, did I answer? Did I give you a chance to answer this question? About
no. I was going to say. I was going to say. I think as far as Underserved, it would probably be something about zombies and the Bulge in Gettysburg or something like that. But no, seriously, I think Stalingrad games, we need more. I think what I'd like to see, it would be more modern contemporary, would be more on the conflicts in Africa, because there's not a lot of games on that. There's been a tremendous amount of conflict on the continent of Africa over the last several decades, especially. And like I pointed out before about Liberia, these are things that a lot of people are not aware of and don't see the human loss, the tragedy that comes out of those. And Liberia is a great example of that. Is if you're not familiar with the Liberian civil wars, I mean, it's brutal on a different level. And I think it would be interesting to explore those and see how those things are, the flux of all these nations there and how things go back and forth. And I think it would be, I like to explore history in that way. And some people I know may think that, well, it's too soon to do those things. Like they even did, like Alexander, you were talking about Brotherhood and Unity. Some people had even said that was too soon for that. It's like, well, Tomislav is from there. So you can't say to the guy, it's too soon for that if he's from there. So because he lived it, he's familiar with the whole thing. So
I'm not going to say that to him.
No.
No.
That's a personal thing, right? If he wants to make that game, go for it. If someone doesn't want to play it for that reason, I'm not going to ever talk to. It's the same thing. So many vets won't play Labyrinth, but so many vets will play Labyrinth.
Sure.
For that same reason. I'm never going to tell anyone how to play or what not to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there are games that are just too sensitive, right? There are. I mean, and there's probably games that are also in bad taste, but I don't know that I can necessarily think of that many examples in the wargaming space. I'm sure if I thought about it hard enough, I could. But I think that's a tiny, tiny minority of games that are designed thoughtlessly in that way. Certainly in the case of Brotherhood and Unity, we have a designer who the designer is from that part of the world. So he has the weight of authority to make games on that topic if that's how he would like to deal with that topic. And I'm not going to gainsay that.
Everyone's talking about Angola.
Yeah. This last playthrough that I did about the War of Turkish Liberation was 1920, the conflict. And I had a Greek viewer who didn't like the game too much. And he talked about bad things that happened during the war. Of course, I'm not going to respond because, I mean, I just do a video on a game, but it touches people and you'll be surprised. The time sometimes doesn't cure the wounds, of some of these conflicts.
True.
They're just there latent. One other topic that I'd like to see is a Falklands war game where you can play the Argentinians. It's always the British that we can play. And I think the Argentinians are the more challenging side, don't you think?
Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
That'd be an interesting solitaire game.
Yeah.
Right.
In a solitaire game, I think you generally want to play the harder side. You want the game to be as challenging as possible. That's kind of the point of the most solitaire designs.
Yeah.
So I would absolutely want to play the Argentinians in that context.
It'd be a states of siege game for sure.
Yeah, and I am aware of no games on that subject where you don't play the British or that are not tactical games where it's just, some small engagement.
You play tactical games like that, but someone was saying here about Angola, which is a fantastic game. If you ever get a chance to play Angola, definitely do. I don't know if you guys have all played it or not.
I haven't, but I haven't played it yet.
I have had it recommended to me in multiple occasions.
Alexander, you play?
I have not played that one.
Oh, it's a fantastic game. What I think is really interesting about it is you actually kind of pre-program your orders ahead of time with your deck of cards as to who's going to go first, which units are going to go in what order. And then you put your cards down and then everybody plays their cards one at a time. So you're trying to outguess what everyone's going to do. There's 4 factions and you're trying to outguess what you're going to do, what the other guy's going to do, what your partner's going to do, and things like that. You're trying to work in concert and work against the other guy without them knowing what you're doing. So it's kind of neat. Yes, he is. Tomislav is doing the North African campaign video game.
Who's he doing that for? Do we know?
Not sure off the top of my head. I think I know he's announced it, but I do not recall off the top of my head.
And I think that mechanic you talked about in Angola, Volko borrowed it for Nevsky.
He did. Yeah. And he also said that was an inspiration for Coin. And someone else was talking about some people don't want to play jihadists in Labyrinth and stuff. And I don't know if I'm unique, if you guys feel the same way, but I have zero problem playing any side in any game. I really don't. It's because it's a game. I differentiate reality from game and have no problem. I can play the Germans. Like I love East Front. I can play the Germans or the Soviets and not have any problem whatsoever. And, it doesn't matter to me because to me, it's just it's a operational or tactical problem that I'm dealing with on the board. It has nothing to do with the ideology. So, some people will take umbrage with that. And I understand, I respect that, but you do have to differentiate. It's a game for entertainment versus, you're not supporting that side, either side or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Peter, I would say check out on the tactical level. So first of all, on the tactical level, there's a Great Battles of History game called Chandragupta that deals with some of the battles in that era. And there's a new release coming, just new on P500. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a coin variant game about an Indian period in that time frame. So
and they call it the irregular combat series or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It was actually one of the Game Jam entries, I think, the Constant Game Jam that was, I forget who ran that, but it's one of the entries there, and they have turned it into a full-blown project now. I think they originally designed it on the Gandhi map.
Yes, it looks very similar, if not identical.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone in chat knows what it is, so I can look it up.
They'll correct us.
It begins with a V, and it's very long.
It begins with a V, but it's an Indian name, and I'm not that good with Indian names. And
Sean posted up there.
I will wreck it if I try to say it.
Yeah, put it up.
Vijayanagara, I think.
Yeah, I will not try to pronounce that because I will butcher it.
Okay, I apologize to our Indian viewers.
No, you probably got it, but I do try to pronounce a lot of names, but Indian pronunciations I suck at those.
I work in IT. I have had some degree of practice. So,
you should listen to my Mexican Greek.
So the White Tribe is from Ben Madison, I think. It is a game about the conflict in Rhodesia. Other than that, there's some YouTube video. Somebody has done some YouTube Alexander, didn't you guys do some video on that?
On the White Tribe?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Somebody did some video on that relatively recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fairly recently, yeah.
Armchair Dragoons, I think, is doing something on it. Ben Madison's done that. He did Liberia. He did Gorbachev.
Mm-hmm. And I have a bunch of the other ones, but I don't.
He did all the other. He did the English series, the Revolutionary War one, and then he did the other one on
Napoleon.
Napoleon, then the Argentinian one we were talking about before. White Tribes on Rhodesia, 66 to 80.
Thatcher's War, yeah.
Mrs. Thatcher's War, yeah.
Yes. Okay. I believe Wayne is responsible for the White Tribe content, and that's an interesting looking game.
Yeah.
So, so I think we've got quite a lot of stuff talked about. We have 106 people watching, by the way.
Still?
Yeah, it's been floating over.
People don't have a job? Come on, man.
Between about 100 and 105. Wait, somebody just signed up, so it's now 107.
Nice.
Thank you.
So yeah, this is a record for me. So thanks, guys. It's really your fault that this is happening.
It's Alexander's shirts. That's what everybody came in.
Everyone,
what Alex is wearing.
Those were the
they're signing up. Oh, I can trash it live.
Those were the drive-bys. We're going to spend the remaining 27 minutes, by the way, making fun of Alexander's various fashion missteps. So,
but I gotta say, like I said, I met those guys at WBC, and Alex was not wearing one of those funky shirts.
I think
it's become like
wearing our branded shirts, weren't we?
Yeah, you were, and
that sounds like something nerdy we would do.
Yeah, and the thing is you've kind of taken it as your, like, I got my hat, I got the Jane hat that I have as my thing. You've got your leopard print shirts as your thing, so there you go.
I don't have a thing. Why don't I have a thing?
It's funny because it's just like the clothes.
I couldn't keep them with the haircut. I looked like an idiot.
Joe's got the voice. He's the voice of wargaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my wife agrees with that, by the way. Joe is the only person who, if I'm playing the video on live speakers, she does not object to and say, "Oh my God, this again."
Oh, and you immediately know who it is.
Yes.
Yep.
Instantly recognizable.
I can't stand my voice, damn it.
We never like our own voices, though.
No, I know.
Well, they sound different to us than they do normally. I sound like a complete stranger on video.
No, that's where you just have to get used to it. And, at first I was like, man, I sound like a real jackass. What the hell? And then after a while, I was like, well, what can you do?
Yeah. So
My bar, yeah.
the bar is awesome, by the way. It actually looks a lot like one of the local microbreweries here in Columbus, Ohio, by the way.
I have no idea where it is. I just found the picture and liked it, and I was like, man, this would be my fantasy room. Would be a bar like that with all the open space, all the plexi, all the tables, everything. That would be like, that's my retirement basement.
I got to get the green screen set up behind me so that I can take a picture that Joe's background and use that as my background.
I'll do this so you feel worse.
I love it.
With Joe standing there, actually.
That's the best bit.
Would make it even better.
Matt is asking, who is Joe again?
Joe again. I assume that Matt is and Matt is in fact not brand new. Never mind, ignore him. You may disregard that question. That is not a serious question. There you go. Get working on that topic. I have no idea what that topic involves.
How about a coin game on the Mayan Empire?
On the okay.
Why not?
Sure.
Why not?
I mean,
we can find out what happened to them.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. I guess you have complete creative freedom, don't you? Exactly. And then the meteor hit, which did happen in that part of the world, by the way, but somewhat, 65 billion years earlier. But still,
Todd's saying his dream is to have all that plexi.
All that, you know what? If you want to drive to my place in Columbus, Ohio, I will give you all the plexi you can walk away with. One of our local guys left town. He moved to Colorado, and I got all his plexi. So I've got like 30 sheets of plexiglass. Wow. I got no idea what to do with it all. I've got like 4 sheets upstairs. I've never set 4 maps up upstairs.
Wow.
You got to take that to Origins and just say free plexi.
Free. So actually,
in 5 seconds.
What will end up happening is it will get taken to Buckeye Game Fest, which, by the way, has been canceled.
I just saw that. I'm devastated. And
that's a local thing in Columbus, Ohio. We have a war room where you can play all week, play one big giant war game, and completely lose yourself in it. It has been rescheduled for April of 2022, which, God willing, we will have this COVID nonsense taken care of by then.
Well, one question is, what gaming conventions are you planning to go? I mean, despite COVID, that you think they'll be held?
Well, I'll answer first because they're all in town here. So Origins is here. We're alleged to have an Origins scheduled for this year, and I think September. I have, other than last year, I haven't missed an Origins since 1995, where we didn't have Origins last year. So I'll go to that, and I'll go to Buckeye Game Fest, which is held in exactly the same location as Origins. Everything else, who knows? I have no idea. I've got a job hunt situation still happening as well, so that has to line up with any other convention attendance. A local thing, I could just go. So, what about you, Mo?
Digital will be the thing, I think, for the near future. I don't know if anybody's going to be having, like there's a lot of talk about like WBC and Consim World, things like that later in the year, but that all depends on obviously the whole situation everybody's in, and then whether they're going to allow full attendance, half attendance, mask, no mask, because that's going to dictate whether people want to go as well. And then, I don't know if we're going to see as many as we'd like to see this year, but I know digital conventions are still going to happen for sure. So there's a couple that I'll be involved in before the summer really kicks off. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully in the later in the year, maybe some conventions will kick in. But the one next year I'm looking forward to, because it's right down the road, is CSW Dallas, because it's only about 7-minute drive. So hell yeah, that was a lot of fun. We only got one in, not just last year, right before COVID, and we obviously couldn't do it this year, so it'll be next March here in Allen, Texas.
Alexander, what about you? Any convention plans?
Well, so our normal convention schedule is we'll go to Origins just for like the Saturday, and then we do WBC, Gen Con, and then recently Buckeye Game Fest, because we're based out of Indianapolis, so that's fairly close for us. This year, honestly, we're just kind of waiting to see what happens. Buckeye's been cancelled. That's a shame, but understandable. Gen Con we probably won't go to, even though it's local. They're also saying they're doing a hybrid format. No idea what that's going to look like, but that's the biggest place with tens of thousands of people. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. and then WBC would be the one, because WBC that's like the war game mecca that we go to every year. So if there was one we would go to, it would be that. But whether or not it's on and how it's going to be done, so honestly, we're just kind of taking a step back and waiting to see what happens, because it's still early in the year.
What about you, Joe?
Well, I hope I can go to Consim World, because last year was supposed to be the 20th anniversary, and it was going to be a big thing. And I think 1 or 2 more extra days, longer than usual. So that's scheduled for August, and I hope that for August we can all be back to normal with no mask, because I'm not going to go to a convention to play games with a mask. That's not
same here.
So yeah, I'll be honest, as somebody who has religiously gone out of the house and worn a mask for like the last year and 14, whatever it's been, I don't want to go to a convention and spend 14 hours a day in a mask. It's uncomfortable, and I don't like to do it. And it's a pain when I have to go to Costco and wear a mask for an hour and a half. I really don't want to do it for all day.
What the heck do you do in Costco for an hour and a half?
Look at everything and eat all the snacks, but they don't have snacks anymore.
And then stand in line at the checkouts for 45 minutes.
There you go.
That's true, yeah.
And I figure, in Phoenix, it's 105 degrees. How can the virus survive without printing?
The people are on fire down there.
No mask in Phoenix. And then I hope to go in January to the BellotaCon, which was also virtual this year. So those are the two ones, the two conventions that I really plan on going. But it is, if they are like regular normal conventions. If it's stuff with masks and everything, no, it's not going to work for me.
Kaiser Bill has the perfect example right there. Masks make it hard to sip bourbon.
Straws is what you need.
Straws, but then you got to poke a hole in a mask and you ruin the integrity.
Well, that's true. But I actually got one of those hats with the beer bottles and the straws for Christmas. So I have not yet filmed a video of me wearing that. So, but yeah, nobody wants to be uncomfortable all day for a week, especially for a big monster event, right?
Yeah, if you're trying to play a game that's for fun, you want to be comfortable doing it. So I'd rather not do it than suffer through it. It's not worth it.
Not to mention, the communication. We all talk about the social aspect of wargaming. You don't want to be sitting there going, "Hey, it's your turn. Go ahead. Yeah, you got to move." It's like,
that's totally a thing too.
Yeah. So now
the Armchair Dragoons next virtual event, I think, is in April, if I'm not mistaken. So that's April or May. So that's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, they've got connections, and then they've got the regular. The regular convention will be in June, and then Harold also does online conventions as well. So he'll announce when there's going to be the next one. So if you've not been to an online convention, I strongly recommend checking it out, because you can do a lot of things at an online convention just like you do in a convention in person, just that you're doing it at home, and that is both pro and con.
Yeah, that's one thing. We're doing the San Diego Historicon that Harold puts on. He's doing virtual, and we've been invited to do a little bit there. So I know that's one thing that we'll be attending.
Yeah, and I'll do something with the Armchair Dragoons group as well when they have their next digital event, I'm sure. So, one-day con. So that's the thing. So, the last digital event that I participated in was over multiple days. And I think a lot of them, we've seen a kind of ecosystem of virtual conventions kind of appear in the last year, now that doing that kind of thing has become necessary, since we don't have any physical events anymore. That is going to change the landscape. I expect that even once we're able to get back together for regular conventions in person, I think we're still going to have digital conventions and digital events, because frankly it works really well. They had like the Great Campaigns of the American Civil War event that they did, corresponding with the last Armchair Dragoons event. They like doubled their attendance and participation over people actually showing up at Winter Offensive in January.
Yeah, and everyone's saying no whiskey, no convention. Well, you're at home. You don't have to worry about driving nowhere. You don't have to worry about nothing. You just Do whatever you want to drink. There
I
you
got
go.
better whiskey than the hotel bar has. Okay, so
Well, you should always bring your own anyway.
well, that's true.
On top
Depends
of
what
what's
state you're in.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
So here in Ohio, I can easily outdo the hotel bar. And if you're in, say, Las Vegas, it's a completely different landscape. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but I think online conventions, like you were saying, I think they're here to stay, at least for the short term, for the next few years. And I think they're a really valid alternative for a lot of people, because there may be people that want to go to CSW or San Diego Historical Games Convention, WBC, even whatever. They can't go there. And they may be out of the States, they may be wherever, or travel is just not easy for them to do. Well, they can do it. They can easily do an online convention where they can hang out with everybody and get the same experience and get to hang out with the same people. Especially you have Discord now, where you could do it like we're doing here, where everyone's just chatting together and you hang out and have social time.
and it's free. Discord is free, and everybody has a Discord channel. Even I have a Discord channel, and I'm a clown. So
Ardwulf Circus coming to a Discord near you.
At the Bellota Con, I did a demonstration of the CDG solo method, and I found a way with with OBS that you're transmitting like a part of the game, and you freeze the image, and then I like remove 2 or 3 units, and then put in a fade effect live, and they disappear live, and my hands never appear on the screen. So that's one thing that I'm interested in doing, is like you can do a game demo, like with the physical game, not tabletop or Vassal, but without any hands on the map. And that's one of the things I'm working on that I'd like to try. And I think that venue is perfect for that.
Stuka Joe making the rest of us look bad since 2015.
I'm telling you, like I said, he's like the wargaming Spielberg.
You're not wrong.
We're just like the best boys, or whatever the hell you with the grips or whatever. We're the jackasses
I'm the
in
guy
the back.
with the guy with the tape.
We're the guys with the we're like the YouTuber people. Like, hey, I got my cell phone. I'm live streaming. You know, Joe's like, all right.
Meanwhile, Joe has manufactured out of tubular steel this rig to slide the camera back and forth completely smoothly. Like, oh my god!
There you go.
I wasn't even making that up.
I thought you were making it up, but he's actually made a dolly.
No, he's got
the whole rig right there. Yeah,
incredible.
That was really cool.
I can't compete with that.
Yeah, but that's why, you know, your videos, you take your time with them, and you can, when you come out with them, they're just top notch. They really are, Joe.
Well,
and really appreciate everything you do for the community and for the hobby.
Next week,
I enjoy the process, and that table cost me a fortune year by year, but I eventually, if you guys keep on doing your job well, and Grant and Alexander and getting, maybe I can market that thing, because it works like a dandy, you know.
There you go.
Because you can put the camera anywhere you want, and it's going to be real close to the action, and you don't have to worry about tipping over stacks or anything. And even standees, you just fly on top of them. And if it's magnetic, you don't use plexiglass. It has a bunch of. It took me some years to develop, but it's. I really love that table. It's great.
That's a great idea. Just the magnets. So if we've taken nothing else away, maybe you don't need a special table. I could go buy a piece of sheet metal from Granger.
Yeah, you can get one of these black. They sell on Amazon these black boards. And you can get them. They come in the same. Wait a second. They come in the same exact size, like for a regular map. Here you go. See, this one fits a 22 by 34-inch map perfectly. You put the magnets on. You put it on your table. Here come the kids. You remove it. And it works like a dandy. And they come in black or white. I prefer the black version, because a black background is always better, because the game stands out. But they work great, and they're not expensive at all.
Next time we're going to put you on, Brant, and make fun of you. So just so you're aware that is scheduled now.
Hey, Brant, this is not family friendly, so
that's true. There was a disclaimer at the very beginning that said, when profanity is warranted, you may use it this evening. And here we go.
There you go. I think that is a great opportunity for Joe to do a Kickstarter. Market it and do the Kickstarter.
Stuka Joe's Wargaming Excelsior table.
Exactly.
Yeah, only $1,900.
So here's my somebody actually this is a great question.
Just gotta sell one of them. That's all.
You've never seen this
Plus shipping and handling
on video because I've never done a video on it. But I have. We have 4 cats here, right? So we have that's a concern. What I did was I bought a picture frame that rises up with a fat enough frame that it rises up, and I just set that on top of the one map game and put some books on it or something, and it's impervious to cats. It was super easy.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That you can actually make it cat proof.
It is not photogenic whatsoever. And it's not big enough to cover like extra, play aids or displays or anything like that. It's big enough for a one map thing. So if there's more than one map of footprint, it doesn't really work. But as long as I come up with something else, right? I put scattered dice around to raise the plexiglass off and just put extra plexiglass on top. I've got the plexiglass. So that's something you could do as well.
Scatter D4s all around, see if your cats will step on the caltrops or not.
No, but I will. So
well, yeah. Grumpy says, impervious to cats, challenge accepted, says my cat.
Says the cat. Yes, exactly. So they're all of one of them came up here just a little while ago, actually. So who's got Grail games? Mo, do you have a Grail game that you've always wanted to have?
Where There Is Discord was one because it was a solitaire game I'd always wanted to play, and it was one that was impossible to find, and just so happened that, and it was, I think when it came out, it was like $125 or something like that because it was a kind of a boutique game. Well, it just so happened one day I was at work and I was on Facebook and it said, new post in Constant Marketplace, and I was like, what the hell? Go in there, and I was just like, oh, somebody's selling an unpunched copy for $125, and I'm like, PM incoming. I'm like, I'll take it. And a guy goes, I knew it was going to sell fast, but I didn't think it was going to sell that fast. It was up for, I don't know. I think within a minute or two, I had already committed to it. And somebody else goes, hey, I want it. And they're like, how the hell did somebody get to it before me? I was like, just luck of the draw, So I got that one and I got to play that still. But that was a kind of a Grail for a while. But Next War would be another one. I would like to get a copy of that. I played it in the past, but I'd never owned it. And, just for completion's sake and to have it, I think it would be kind of cool to have.
It's an interesting. You're talking the SPI Next War?
Yes.
Yeah. It's an interesting game. Joe, do you have a monster game that or a Grail game that you've always wanted to obtain?
Well, I think I obtained the one I wanted. Let me see what it is.
Let me go through my extensive my library here.
Hold on. Let me go to section A4.
Let me open up Microsoft Access and look it up in my database. Oh,
you're not.
This one.
The Art of Siege. Very nice.
Nice.
I love it so much that I don't want to punch it. It's like a crime to punch. I think I'll have to end up making the counter so I don't have to punch it, which is a little counterproductive, but
that's completely reasonable.
It's beautiful. It's 4 sieges and it's a beautiful game. I haven't played it yet. Every time I just open the box, I just admire the damn thing and never play it. But hopefully one day I'll play it. But I'll have to be with my own counters because I don't want to unpunch those.
Alexander, do you have a Grail game that you need to have or have obtained recently?
Not that I've obtained recently, but there's a couple that I really want. I want to play Phantom Fury. That's a big one that I'm interested in, and then at some point I'd like to get a copy of Downtown. It's very pricey, but apparently it's amazing.
Phantom Fury is over here.
I've heard Lee talking about that. There may eventually be a reprint of Downtown.
If there's a reprint,
it's not soon, but
and that's the kind of thing. There are some games where it's like, oh, I'll go and splash out for it, and then they reprint it 2 years later. So I'm
that always happens to me. Yeah,
so I'm just trying to be patient.
I can't count the number of times that's happened to me. I was all proud when I came home from Winterfest one year because I had gotten a copy of Grant Takes Command. I literally came home, sat down in front of the computer, looked at Constant World. Oh, they're reprinting Grant Takes Command. It's like, really? Seriously? Yesterday I got this game.
Before we even got into Wargaming, I bought Twilight Struggle on one of its in between printing cycles, like an absolute moron, and I didn't know. So I paid in a store $90 for that thing, and then I got a P500 it for like 30% of that, like 2 months later, and I didn't know. I had no idea what GMT was at the time.
It's it's always out of print, as you know. That's GMT keeps it in print pretty much. It's occasionally gone out of print, not very often. MMP, that's like a complete strategy. That's a strategy people that play ASL things do. They're like, oh, I have a copy of Yanks. Yanks has just come back into print. I'll buy 4 copies so that when in 8 months it's out of print again, I can mark them up by 50% and put them on eBay. That is an actual thing that and they will sell. That's an actual thing.
I have been contemplating getting into ASL purchasing just to speculate. Just buying all the ASL I can buy and then wait 4, 5, 6 months and be like, hey, you guys want a copy of this? $200.
Yeah, because it'll be out of print again. I mean, I saw copies when ASL Starter Kit #1, which is the like $28 game, was out of print. It was some guy on Amazon was selling it for like $150. I'm like,
damn.
What? So my monster game, I think my last monster game hit over here just a couple of days ago. That's War in Europe here. It might be the last Grail game that I have. I don't know that I have anything else that I would consider a Grail. I did own the Next War at one point, however. Never owned Art Siege. I've never played Downtown, but I have 2 other games in the series by the designer, so that's worth something, I suppose.
Well, Phantom Fury, haven't they talked about reprinting that? Phantom Fury?
And I don't know if they have, but they may well have done.
They've announced it, but it never comes out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where I'm just not going to buy it on the secondhand market because at some point, if it's good enough, it'll get reprinted.
Well,
if it doesn't get reprinted, it's not good enough.
If everybody, what you should do is you should take one for the team and buy a copy on the secondary market, so that way the next day they come out and announce it's going to be reprinted.
That's
the logic there is incredibly sound
for everybody else. I already have a copy. I'll sell you my copy. That's what we'll do. I'll sell you my copy for $300, and then little do you know they are reprinting now. I have no idea if they're not or not.
There's been talk. I think what Lee Brimacombe Wood said was that when he finishes with the other Air game series, the name of which is eluding me at this exact moment, he wants to revisit Downtown. Wing Leader, that's it. Which I've played once, and I was not that. It didn't sing to me. The Burning Blue is another of those operational air games, though. It's a sort of related system, I suppose. That's another one that I have. That's actually really neat.
Yeah, I've got it, but I haven't played it.
What about Red Storm?
Red Storm, if you'd like a copy of Red Storm, absolutely mint. Please watch the sale video tomorrow. I played Red Storm, and I like it, but I don't need to own it. I've got 2 friends that have it locally, and we might play it again someday, in which I'll be delighted to do. But I don't need to own it particularly. I don't have the space for it.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that's going is just going because I just need the shelf space, frankly.
Yeah, I think we all kind of go through that too.
Except Joe.
Except for Joe.
He's in great shape.
I do have space problems. So.
Yeah, he has empty space he needs to fill.
Get rid of my Axis and Allies.
Well, that's no great loss, right? I
mean, you can always pick it up for $35 at Target.
Yeah. Well, there's like 70 different versions of it, so who knows? I don't even know. I have years ago, I lost track of different versions of Axis and Allies. It was a game that I played back when it was new, and haven't kind of touched it since then, actually.
I think Axis and Allies 1941 is regularly on sale for like $17.
One of those goes really cheap especially when it's on sale, and even at regular price, it's not particularly expensive, and it still has 1 million pieces in it.
Yeah.
John asked a good question. He says, "But aren't Grail games traditionally just bad for the most part?"
Well, maybe. I mean, certainly, War in Europe shows its age, right? Art of Siege shows its age. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not worthwhile anymore. One of the things, and I think Art of Siege, this applies to Art of Siege 2, not so much Next War anymore, is that it provides kind of a unique play experience. There's really nothing else I'm talking about War in Europe now. This is also true of Europa, though. There isn't really anything else at its scale. So there's really nothing that's directly comparable to doing that, at least the East Front Europa that everybody plays. Next War has kind of been sort of, I mean, the NATO and Iron Curtain are at similar enough scales that I think there's a lot of crossover. But I actually sat down and compared via the Vassal modules the maps between 1985 Under an Iron Sky and SPI's Next War, and they are almost identical, other than the art, which is completely different.
Oh yeah, that's why I stayed
exactly
completionist. I wanted just to have it. I have Under an Iron Sky. I have Deadly Northern Lights. I've got the 2 in the C3 series as well. Less than 60 Miles, Dogs of War. But I kind of want that Next War just because when we played it, I played a copy of it, and this was back when I was in the military. One of our sergeants in our platoon or in our company had it, and on the weekends, especially when you ain't got any money, you hang out in the barracks a lot more. And he would be like, "Hey, let's go play a game." We'd either play like D&D or we would play Next War or something like that. We'd have a group of us playing it, so we'd even get broken down into different sectors that would play and fight through. We probably screwed up a lot of rules, but it was a lot of fun to do it. And that's why I kind of want to have it. Just like I want to get a copy of Tactics 2, which to me is still a classic because that was where I really sat down and played with many a Friday night with buddies down in the basement, pizzas and sodas and nuking each other playing Tactics 2 with the advanced rules or the extra rules.
Tactics 2, let me ask that actually. Mo, what was your first war game?
That was it was Tactics 2, and then at the same time I bought South Africa. And Tactics 2 is very easy to play, and it was a lot of fun. South Africa, I just didn't get it. I was like sitting there going, okay, I'm either screwing something up and it took a while to get the rules down and all because I was like 12 or 13, I think, when I was playing it. But I was like, this doesn't make any sense. It just keeps going. And I didn't realize at the time that's the point, of the game is you have to keep going until communism wins. And at the time I was like, this is stupid, and I kind of put it aside. Now I kind of want to get the game just for, nostalgia's sake, I think.
Joe, what was your first war game?
It was actually 2. When I was 13, my uncle took me to a store and said, pick 2 games. So I picked Luftwaffe and France 1940 from Avalon Hill.
Nice.
That's nice. If you're interested in a copy of France 1940, please check out the sale video tomorrow. Alexander, what was your first war game?
That's a good question. I think it may have been like our first real war game.
Yeah, war game. Not you.
It may have been Wilderness War.
Okay, that's close enough. That counts. That's a very interesting first war game.
Yeah,
it's going in and out. Yeah, Phantom Fury.
We played Wilderness War, and it was absolute brain burner because we were new to the hobby. Basically, we played it for a total of 9 hours across 3 3-hour sessions on 3 days, and it ended. It's on a pendulum of victory points, and it ended on 0. And I was like, what are we doing?
That's pretty great. My first was Paratroop in S&T number 77, which I talked my parents into getting me an S&T subscription when I was 10 years old. They honestly thought I was a deeply disturbed young man. And that was the first one. I also remember having the China War from that same 3 or whatever it was subscription at the time. But Paratroop was the earlier of the 2. And that's the only one I remember. And I remember being pretty baffled by it as a 10-year-old kid. And then after that, I moved more into RPGs. But in the span of the 80s, I still did wargaming. We did Squad Leader and a variety of things. Almost all Avalon Hill, though, rather than SPI. After all, in early 1982, SPI went away and was absorbed, as it were, by TSR. So what we were seeing on shelves were like the Spitzer games, and I never touched any of those during that decade.
Yeah.
It's funny, though, when you play these games, you look at them and you look back. You start with the easy stuff, OCS Burma. Yeah, OCS.
Yeah.
I think SCS is much more difficult than OCS Burma. But when you look back at when you play these games when you're a kid, it would be cool if you can do like a time machine where you go back and you watch over your shoulder and you're like, dude, you were screwing this up so bad. That's not how you do that.
Oh, I have
it would be funny to be able to do that and see how bad we butchered rules when we were younger because we're kids.
I have no illusions. I expect I got 0% right out of Paratroop. And particularly, it says there's 3 games in Paratroop too, right? Which are all completely different. It's not even one game to screw up. I screwed up 3 times as much stuff.
But I think it'd be kind of fun to do that, just to go back and see, or if we can somehow remember exactly what we did wrong. I think that'd be kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. I always feel like it would be interesting to go back and revisit that as a complete newbie, not having the decades now of context that you have in these games, to go back and see it with completely fresh eyes. I often think that would be more interesting to me than going over and punching myself in the arm because I'm doing it wrong, because I know I was doing it wrong. Come on.
Yeah. Well, the easiest way to do that would be to introduce when you introduce somebody new to war games, and you see their confusion when they look at the rules and they see the case numbers and they're like, I don't understand this. They look at the rules and they're probably going, I have to do everything these rules are saying. It's like, no. A lot of that is guidance. You don't have to exactly follow every word of the rules. There's a lot of wording that's about yay big that tells you to do one little thing. And that's the hard thing you have to try to teach people to, grasp that. And that's why I like something like the SCS series, which I just mentioned, is a great way of introducing people to basics that they're going to learn and they're going to carry over to every game.
Yeah. SCS is really good for that. I mean, it's got all kind of the wargaming nuts and bolts that you would expect to see. It's got the TEC and the ZOX and all that stuff. At some point, we need to do an acronyms show, I suppose, to talk about what all these acronyms mean for people who don't know that.
You need to do that with Dan Pancaldi.
That is going to be my suggestion for Dan's for next week, not for this week. This week, we're going to talk. Dan wants to talk about monster games. So
I thought you guys were going to talk about Mole.
We might mention Mo. That's possible. We'll probably mention you too. As a matter of fact.
Oh, the NATO symbols.
That was last week.
We did that
last week. Did you miss that show? We did that last week. NATO symbols. We had a whole quiz. It was like literally a quiz show and everything. And we had the actual expert, David Thompson, who works with NATO symbols on a daily basis at work to be the referee. Sort of.
How did I miss that?
That was last Wednesday. That was on my channel though, not Dan's. So.
What the?
We're out. We're flipping back and
forth.
All right. This
well,
week
I know what I'm doing after this show.
All right.
So
I was looking forward to it. I thought that was this week.
Nope. This week is Monster Game.
Here's the question for Stigler. He says his sister beat him in the starter scenario in 1776. How embarrassing! I would hope that if you've not already done so, you will get her to do a Vassal rematch with you, and you will stream it live.
I'm surprised there aren't people asking for Stigler's sister's phone number. Actually,
is that campaigns of 1776?
I assume he means the Avalon Hill 1776. That's campaigns of 1777. That's right. Gorgeous Harold Buchanan magazine game from 2 years ago or something.
Should have been a box game.
Yeah. Well, it might be.
Maybe.
There's a poll. There's a poll. There's a poll on Decision's website as to what magazine games from the last few years they want to do a deluxe box version of. So go vote for that if that's not over yet. It is a gorgeous game. It's the best looking magazine game I've ever seen.
And even has a little touch from Joe himself.
There's some cards there.
Yeah.
I like to do cards.
So let's actually mention that. So Joe has an upcoming project with GMT, the CDG solo system. So Joe, why don't you tell us about that?
Well, that's the method that I developed in 2016 that really came to life in 2017. I revamped it, and it had been I uploaded the materials in BGG, and people were playing their CDGs, and I had help from a fellow wargamer called Chris Crane. He helped me with made tweak sheets for Empire of the Sun, for many of the GMT games, including the ones that are coming up now, and GMT took it, wanted to put it in a more professional package and make it accessible to everybody. So they're going to provide the materials for free except for the dice, of course, which you can download from their website. But if you want the professionally printed materials, you can purchase them via P500. Last time I checked, there were 1,600 plus orders. And those are for 6 games, and they're throwing in Samurai, Commands and Colors Samurai in there also. So I think it's going to be 7. So that's an interesting twist, because I'm not a game designer by any chance. I like to do player aids, because I play a game and I go, man, this game is really good, but it would be even better if it had this. And I'm a firm believer that I like to enjoy playing the game. And every time I have to go to the rule book or to one of these double-sided player aids to look for a row there, that is a minus for me. So that's why I do these player aids in the form of poker cards, and I'm doing sequence of play cards for all these games that have a ton of phases. You just flip them, and because they're so small, your attention is focused on this small deck of cards, and you can put it on the board. There's somewhere always a place on the board where nothing's happening. You put them there, and people seem to like them. And I think it's I started to. I think I uploaded 2 days ago one for Mark Herman's Waterloo Campaign 2815 game, which is not a complex game, but it has 11 steps, and because it's a very innovative system, even for grognards, it's kind of the learning curve. There's a little learning curve there, because there's an interaction with detachments and cores and stuff. So I uploaded that, and people really, I think, appreciate it, because anything that helps ease the learning curve for these games, it's I think it's going to be more people that will want to play them, because the first impression with a war game is always so powerful. And if it's bad, you probably won't touch it again.
Yep.
And what will you be doing with the truckloads of cash that GMT will be backing up to your house?
What's that? Cash? You get paid for it?
He's going to buy another set of shelves so he can put more games up there.
Yes. On the other side of the room.
Yeah.
Well, my question for you, Joe, is this. You said it's going to be, they're going to set it to where it works with Command and Color Samurai. Is that going to be where it could work with any of the Commands and Color series games?
Yeah, it can work with any of the Commands and Color series.
There you go.
Yeah. I know in the source book that I did, we had tweak sheets for Command and Colors Ancients. We haven't done tweak sheets for Command and Colors Napoleonics, and I haven't really thought into that, but I suppose that you can. And so they're gonna throw in the Samurai, and they're gonna keep on doing modules with six games coming out. Mm-hmm. And the die, it's a special die. I mean, you can take a 6-sided die and paste some, the sides, but I think people like to get a nice finished product, and GMT does a fine job with that.
And then they're going to do the camera drone with all your GMT cache. So that way you can have the overhead hovering view.
Yeah, that's going to be spectacular. You don't need the little moving arm anymore. You can have just the drone move back and forth.
Maybe don't give me ideas.
There you go.
Leave it to Stuka Joe to make that asinine thing work.
No, but it's I'm really happy that they did that, and because right now, I mean, since a long time ago, CDGs are here to stay. I mean, they're really they have a real charm in them, and that the cards and the uncertainty of play, and then you have all these events distilled in cards, which otherwise you would have to pull out a book and read 2 paragraphs, which kills the whole gaming experience. When I go to conventions, all I play mostly is CDGs, because they're so, interactive.
And they're generally a shorter format as well, which is appealing to a lot
of times. Yeah. Certainly you'd hate gaming with us where we spend an hour a week bitching about some paragraph in the OCS rulebook. Even though we play it every week, we still have that happen every week. No, it works this way. Really?
But last week you said it worked this way.
I've been doing it this way for the past 10 years.
You've been doing it wrong, and you're both doing it at the same time, telling each other you're wrong.
What are you talking about? You did this way last week.
All right. Really helped. There's a rough swordsman. Yeah, he did a series with RAF. I did the cards for the Lion and the Eagle version.
Mhm.
because that game has 36 phases. So there's no way you're gonna.
Oh.
So if you want to go 36 times to the rule book?
Yeah.
I'm getting dizzy just listening to the word 36. Actually,
Mm.
So
That
if Decision Games wants to publish another edition with the cards, please give me a call. Hey.
there you go, Doc. Get
Another
this
truckload
man
of cash.
All right, yeah, the big dollars come from Decision Games, as we know.
Yeah.
So, all right, we are over 2 hours in at this point. I would like to thank everybody, the huge number of people who have tuned in this evening. We're still at 86 somehow. There's people still watching this. I would especially like to thank the three amazing gentlemen who have joined me here, Mo, Alexander, and Joe. Of course, this broadcast would not have been possible without them. I will mention that we are going to have, there's videos coming this week. I mentioned that earlier, and we're going to do another live stream, which will be just me next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to check out No Enemies Here at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, when I will be joining Dan for some informal discussion about monster games, where I will make fun of Dan for not playing them. So
Dan Pandetta, right?
and exactly,
he'll take it.
Dan Panchisi is my personal favorite. Dan seems to be of the idea that I came up with this shtick of mispronouncing his name, by the way. This wasn't even my idea. This was Gregory Smith's that originated this whole thing, where he mispronounced his name at WBC, and I ran with that.
On purpose, or did it start by accident?
Oh, I'm sure Greg Smith did it by accident. I'm doing it on purpose.
But it's good, though. It's good to have a running gag like that. you know?
And it just, I have gotten amazing mileage out of this joke, actually. Sometimes
wait till
even
you do
I
the-
can't keep a straight face through it.
Wait till you do the acronyms with him, because he's going to be like, what? I can't keep up. I can't keep up. How do you understand this?
Oh, I'm already scripting that out.
Yeah.
So don't worry.
Learn these or your SOL PDQ.
That's right. All right. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate all of you coming on here. And again, to everybody watching, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for more content next week.